Hey guys, it's me, Pokemon Bear HD, and today we have the beginning of a new adventure for your Los Angeles lookers. We have Season 3 of the ICBA, and I'm going to let you know right now that the first battle will be going on a week from today, and the subsequent team builder will be released the day before, so Sunday team builder, Monday battle will be the tentative schedule for this. And with that, the first thing I'll obviously let you know is the draft format. You can see on the right there's the pretty standard looking GBA draft format. So that is how we are drafting, with the 400 points for the 4 free slots, and then 1 tier 1, tier 2, 2 tier 3s, 1 tier 4, 1 tier 5, and a mega. And the twist in this league is that there are certain Ubers and I would say borderline Mons for the draft league format. And that makes this very exciting, and that definitely was a draw for me where it made me want to join, because I wanted to try out some Mons that I hadn't used before in general, but also some Mons that just aren't even allowed. And so I thought this was a cool opportunity and a fun looking league, and I was definitely excited. But with the 14th pick, I got my hands on Pheromosa. It cost me 220 points in my first free slot, so that already does do quite a chunk, but I think it's worth it. It's a strong wall breaker and revenge killer because of its high attack and special attack, as well as just amazing speed. And on top of that, it gets beast boost, so I can boost in attack, special attack, or speed depending on the set and the week. So I think that's just really awesome. It has strong stab moves for its bug and fighting, as well as some nice coverage to kind of help alleviate the issue of things that wall bug and fighting, being the fairy or poison. At least those are the main ones that stick out. And so with this, it's gonna just kick people in the face. It's gonna U-turn around teams, and I think it's just in general gonna be really fun to use and really fun to see this just take lives as it did when it was in OU at the beginning of Sun and Moon for no good reason. So I think that this will be really fun to use and hopefully just put so much pressure on opposing teams. Now next up, grab Mew. Does jack of all trade, does everything, and it does help with that poison typing that I mentioned being pretty good against the bug and fighting stabs of Pheromosa. And beyond that, though, this Mon just in general does whatever you need it to do in any given week, and I think that's just extremely valuable and hard to prep for on my opponent's side, since it does get every single TM in the game, thus giving it access to just about every move you could possibly need. And so I think using Mew will be really fun and a good challenge to find that right set that for each given week. And I'm hoping it can do everything this season. Obviously not all at once, but just be able to really make sure that my team each week has what it needs, since this can fill into whatever role I may be missing with the other 5 Mons I bring. So then, to help me kind of address the fairies, I got Arcanine. I know fire is not super effective against fairy, but it does resist fairy, and so with that, I think Arcanine is a solid way to help break down the fairies. And it's got a nice intimidating ability, in addition to enough bulk to be able to be defensive as well as offensive. So I think for me, this might have been early to a lot of other people, but I really enjoy using Arcanine. I think it's amazing. And so, third pick for me was not too early because it is in tier 3, which, at least for me, I find value again, and I think that it is a really good mon that is worth being picked pretty early, and because it is a tier system, I like to get that surplus value from this, and that maybe a lot of people are picking tier 1s and tier 2s with their third pick. I'm going for a tier 3 because I can get whichever one I want, and that one that I firstly want is definitely Arcanine, being able to be physical, special, or defensive, and has that reliable recovery to really make any set that I'm going for really solid on the offensive or defensive side. Then next up we have Hydreigon, which I don't think I've ever actually drafted Hydreigon, and so I'm excited for that. It's definitely a threat with solid offensive stats, and again, pretty solid defensive stats, so this is another mon that can be offensive or defensive, obviously barring fairies, but at this point, since I'd covered, at least I felt, initially with the offensive typings, I just wanted, honestly, I was looking at tier 2, and usually I'm not a big fan of what's in tier 2s because I guess I don't value the tier 2s as much as as many other people do. So a lot of tier 2s I'm just kind of sour on. I don't always pick it very early, but Hydreigon is one of the tier 2s that I think is actually really good. Although I've never used it, I've seen it used a million times, and it can be just devastating if you don't have a fairy to beat it. So, everyone has a fairy, but like a fairy that's in position to beat it because there's no hidden power fairy, take advantage of that 4 times weakness, and you need to have fairy moves to actually hit this, so I think that it's got an amazing coverage pool because of being the dragon typing, but also having another strong stab in dark makes it good against just about everything other than those fairies. Then next up, we grabbed Deblade, and the reasoning I wanted Deblade was that I wanted a flying resist, and I wanted a steel type that I'm comfortable with, and this kind of covered both bases there, as well as just the ghost steel typing being absolutely amazing defensively. And so I think with the mons I have right now, I'm building quite the solid typing core or typing base, since I definitely feel that it's important to get a lot of variety in your typings for the not just for the sake of having a variety of typings, but that actually cover each other's weaknesses pretty well. And so definitely this resisting feels like just about everything. Definitely fits that, since it has so many resistances, and at least at this point I have a ground immunity in Hydreigon, I have a fire resist in Arcanine and Hydreigon, I have a dark resist and a ghost resist in Hydreigon, and it's just a lot of its weaknesses are already covered, and so I felt that this just fit nicely. It's got the priority, it's super fat with that Eviolite, and hey, it's the mascot of the ICBA, so why not? And then after that, we get our fairy to complete the classic fairy steel dragon core, but I didn't necessarily pick it just because I needed a fairy, but Primarina. And I will explain here that Primarina takes over the second tier 3 slot rather than Deblade, even though I picked Deblade first, because we actually have in some of the tiers an A and a B that have different point values. And so Deblade was 80 points versus Primarina being 100. So the lower point mon takes precedent in which points you get, so that actually helps me save 20 points. And so now I have 100 left for my 2 last mons, but I get Primarina, which I have never used, but I've wanted to. It's a strong fairy, it's a strong water. It has nice special bulk, it has passable, I'd say, physical defense because its typing can resist a lot of typings that tend to be physical, such as fighting being the main one that comes to mind first, and in general, I think this is just a strong wall breaker. It's a potential, defensive mon if I need it to be. It's definitely specially defensive enough, and it's something that I felt really fits this team because I don't have a whole lot of, I'd say, like, immediate power because Arcanine and Mew don't have the immediate power. However, Hydreigon and Primarina kind of help break down those walls for Pheromosa, hopefully, to just clean up. So definitely strong mon that I have wanted to use for quite a while, and I look forward to just hydro pumping and moonblasting so many things because it's so hard to resist both water and fairy, and then even if you do, it has some solid coverage to cover that up. And next up here, I got sniped. So with this 7th pick, I was going to take Mudsdale. I felt that having a nice fat ground type in Mudsdale would be solid. It was at this point I had pretty much planned the rest of my draft from here, in that I wanted Mudsdale. I did still want Virizion, so I did end up picking that because that was the second thing on my list that I was going to take. And so I didn't have a direct replacement for Mudsdale at this point, so Virizion was what I went with. As I do really like Virizion, at least I'm not keen on grass types that often, but this is one that I do like, and I don't care that it shares the 4 times weakness to flying with Pheromosa, because Pheromosa's weaknesses, in my opinion, don't really matter. It's gonna die a lot of times to getting hit, so I mean, the way I want to use it is that it doesn't get hit, so I don't care that it shares a lot of weaknesses with Pheromosa, and I don't mind doubling up on the fighting typing in this case, because I didn't really like that many other grass types and I wanted some speed, because at this point my next fastest mon was Mew. So this provides a speed tier in between Mew and Pheromosa, which I felt was pretty important, and it is just solid stats all around. I know it's not the strongest, but Z moves can cover that up if I decide to make it a Z move user. So, and also the setup of Swords Dance, like Calm Mind kind of stuff. So I think that Virizion is a solid mon, and in tier 4 it's a good value, and I'm glad I could still get that at this point. And so, looking at tier 4 again, since I was planning to get Mudsdale as my other tier 4 at the time, I didn't really see a direct replacement for Mudsdale in tier 4, but I still wanted to take a tier 4 since I wanted to wait on the tier 5, so I decided on something that resists that flying that I just mentioned, but not necessarily a defensive mon by any means, but a mon that I've come to love in Lycanroc midday form. And Lycanroc is solid speed, again adding another faster mon, got a solid attack to be able to revenge kill things, and then with setup or its Z move can definitely nuke some things, and it's got enough bulk to usually set up Swords Dance. I mean, since it's just pure rock, it's not 4 times weak to anything, so I think it can have enough bulk to usually set up that Swords Dance, so I think that it's just solid. It's rounding out a lot of the typings that I'm getting here, and in addition, it is just a mon that I have come to love really recently, since I've been I put in a lot of work with it, and I can see how it can put on a lot of pressure, and it gives a unique priority in the Accelerock. Can't even say it. It's just a mon that I think adds the speed, adds some more power, and can really be a threat. And especially in the tier 4, I felt that was a solid value for it, since I, at this point, definitely value it more than a tier 4. So then, next up, I'm looking at tier 5s, and I need more or less my replacement for Mudsdale. And I find something that should be able to work, and that is Piloswine. Piloswine is super bulky because its stats are already pretty decent, and then adding that Eviolite, so again, both my Eviolite users extremely bulky. I know I have 2, so I'm not really that weak to Dark though, so knockoff spam isn't something I'm too worried about. And if Dark types aren't exactly great against my team at this point, since I have Pheromosa, Virizion, and Primarina that all want to take it on, and it's only good against Mew at this point, and the Doublade, but I think that they both have ways to take on Dark types too, so knockoff spam, not a big deal to me. This just provides a Rocks user, which my only other Rocks users at this point are Mew and Lycanroc, so I felt that was good to have another priority user, a nice Shard, and just in general a nice bulky ground type, which I don't want things to Volt Switch all over me, that's for sure. So then, after that, I'm not sure at this point how many people have picked Megas, but the Mega I initially wanted was Mega Manectric. That's already taken, so I kind of scrambled, and I felt I should just take my Mega now since I don't want to get sniped again, because the only other Mega that I felt would be a good fit for my team when I'm looking at it, what's left, is actually Mega Pinsir, and the reason I felt it's a nice fit is because it's basically my flying type. Bug typing is there, but it doesn't use bug moves normally anyway, because flying just takes on most of what bug would take on. So Mega Pinsir here, another priority user. I like, that I have a lot of priority to use, and in addition, it's a solid wall breaker. It's got enough bulk to take on, resisted hits really nicely, in addition to taking at least the 2 times effective moves from defensive mons. And it's got Swords Dance to be able to make it such a huge threat. I mean, it does get Stealth Rocks, but in all likelihood, not bringing Stealth Rocks. And it also helps with my speed again, which my initial plan was to have Pheromosa and Mega Manectric just outspeed most other teams and just Volt Turn all over. But since I can't have that, this does provide at least another speed tier between now Mew and Virizion, and at least helps me not be extremely slow, since I was afraid I was going to get to that point with so many under base 100. But it's a strong wall breaker, it's a flying type that I didn't have before, and I think that it's just a Mega that a lot of times it falls because of the 4 times weak to Rock, because a lot of people are like, oh, then you have to get a lot of defoggers and spinners, and I think I have enough. I know I don't have a lot of options on hazard removal, but I think I have enough, or I think that I can maybe play in a way that it doesn't really matter too much because of the offensive nature of this team so far, and so I think that it can really help break those walls down for Pheromosa. And last pick, we got Bouffalant. Now Bouffalant, I mean, honestly, I looked at tier 5, I wasn't feeling too many of them that were left, but I felt Bouffalant could provide some extra bulk and power it's pretty slow, but other than that, its stats are really solid. And it's a normal typing, so it's only got the fighting weakness, but it's also, a ghost immunity, since I do have a couple ghost weaknesses that aren't too checked other than Hydreigon. So felt Bouffalant was solid to finish off my typings, as well as just an interesting mon that I haven't really used, but it has solid coverage since it is a normal type, but it's also just can be extremely strong, and if it's not prepped for it, it can really run through a team, or I should say head charge through a team. Okay, with that one, I will move on to now deciding Z-Mons. Z-Mons were, you're allowed to either make them a Z status or Z offensive mon, which Z status means having the Z offensive moves as well as status. So that's a little more expensive, and since it is a point system, I can't just make whatever mons I want. So with that, here are my Z users. I chose all of them to be Z just offensive, not Z status, because as you can see, out of these 4 mons, 3 of them get speed boosting moves, and I feel like that's usually what Z status does for you, is just gains a speed boosting move. But since 3 of them actually already have that, it doesn't really matter. And so I felt that just adding the extra power to these moves, since all of these are mediocre to, I would say, more or less middling power for their offensive stats, that it would add the necessary power to make them threats. So we have the Mew, we have the Arcanine, we have the Virizion, and we have the Lycanroc, and for both the Mew and the Lycanroc, they have their signature Z moves, which are allowed, so that definitely helps me decide that they should do it. And while it was, I do have other mons, I think like Hydreigon, Primarina, those both are solid Z mons, I just didn't have the points for it, and I felt that they could be successful without the Z moves. And so this is my draft. I do think I might make a move, but for the most part I am happy with this team, but it definitely is a little different than I anticipated because of the sniping, and so I didn't get my Volt switcher, and so that's definitely something I will be on the lookout for to possibly change. But other than that, I'm happy. I've got the double bug Pheromosa Mega Pinsir, but I don't think that's going to be an issue at all because these bugs are so strong and provide the fighting and flying as the second typing, so those just inherently help each other. And so with that, the team ends up being Mew, Hydreigon, Arcanine, Primarina, Virizion, Piloswine, Mega Pinsir, Pheromosa, Doublade, Lycanroc, and Bouffalant. And so that is your Los Angeles Lookers for ICBA Season 3, and I look forward to seeing you again on Sunday with the team builder, and then a week from today, Monday, with the first week's battle. So thank you for watching. Bye!